Today is Tuesday, April 14th, and we're going to be looking at commas in a series. Okay, so what is commas in a series? Well, what you have is you got a sentence with a series of 3 or more words or short phrases that need commas to separate these items. Okay, so you're going to place a comma after each word or phrase except for the last one. So, let's take a look at what we mean by that. All right, so if I said a blue jay sparrows, and cardinals nibble on seeds. Okay, so we have 3 different things. We have a blue jay, we've got sparrows, and we've got cardinals. So we've got 3 things, so we need to have 2 commas. Well, I put the first comma in here after blue jays, or blue jay. Where would the next comma go? Well, it'd go after sparrows. And do we need one after cardinals? Well, no, we don't. We can't put a comma after the last item in a series. Okay, so if you have 3 things, you need two commas. If you have 4 items, well, you need 3 commas. 5 items, you need 4 commas. Okay? Now, what if I said that James went to the store to buy a camera, batteries, milk, and a notebook. Okay. Well, how many different items do we have in this list? Well, we have a camera, we have batteries, milk, and we have a notebook. So that makes 4 different things. Okay, so how many different commas do we need? Well, I already put them in there. We need 1, 2, and 3. And each of those commas have to go after the 3 things first, and then not the last one. So I'm going to put another example up here, and you're going to have to put the comma in there. Okay, well, what if we had Louisiana, Maine, Indiana, Ohio, and Mississippi. Are my favorite states. Well, how many different states do we have up there? Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 states. So how many commas am I going to need, and where am I going to put them at? Well, we have 5 states. We need 4 commas. So we need 1 after Louisiana, 1 after Maine, another 1 after Indiana, and 1 after Ohio. So Louisiana, comma, Maine, comma, Indiana, comma, Ohio, comma, and Mississippi are my favorite states. And that makes sense. Okay, now you'll also need to make sure that when you have items in a series, but they are connected by the word and or, you will not need a comma in between those words. Okay, so basically do not use commas if the items in a series are joined by connecting words. So if I said something like streaks of green and red and blue are joined with a, let's see, streaks of green and red and blue are joined with a awesome, or in a awesome rainbow. Okay, now what are the connecting words in here? Well, they're and. So we have streaks of green, red, and blue. So those are the three items that you have in a series, and they're joined together with the word and in between them. So when that happens, you do not need to put a comma in there. Another example of that would be if I was to say a cow or rabbit or deer ran out in front of my car last night. Now, I may not be aware of which animal did it, but I know it's one of those three animals. So I've got a cow, I've got a rabbit, and I've got a deer. But I'm saying it's one of those items. So I've got a connecting words right here, the words or. Now, I do not need to put a comma in there because it has the connecting words. Okay? So that is one of those little side rules that you will need to know. Now, if you have two or more adjectives that describes the subject, and you say something like a sad, lonely old man, a sad, lonely old man knocked at my door today. Well, what is your subject? Well, let's look at the word man. That's also known as a noun, a person, place, or thing. Okay? Now, what are the adjectives that's describing the man? Well, sad, lonely, old. Now, the rule is that if you have a series of adjectives describing a subject, if you can put the word and in between them and it makes sense, then yes, you'll need commas in between there. Okay, could I say a sad and old and lonely and old man knocked at my door today? Well, it makes sense. So we have three adjectives in a row. How many commas are we going to need? Well, you're right. We're going to need two. Right there. A sad comma, lonely comma, old man knocked at my door today. All right. Now, we're going to look at parenthetical expressions now. Now, what a parenthetical expression is, it's a word, phrase, or clause that adds emphasis or information or a comment to the main idea of the sentence. So this expression can be dropped without changing any of the sentence, the meaning of the sentence, okay? So it's kind of like if you have a train, there's the front of the train, you got the middle of the train, you got the last part of the train, okay? Let's say, for instance, this is your parenthetical expression in the middle, okay? Well, what you have to make sure that you do is you put a comma before the parenthetical expression, and you'll put a comma after the parenthetical expression. Now that's if most of the time your parenthetical expression falls in the middle of the sentence. Sometimes it could fall at the end of the sentence, okay? But if it falls in the middle, put a comma before and after, and what you can do is take all of this out and scoot the trains back together, and when you put those trains back together, it has to make sense. So what I mean by that is if you said, your camera, I suppose, fell into the pool. Okay, what do you think the parenthetical expression would be? It's sometimes parenthetical expressions are kind of like an interruption too. They kind of go off the bat and then they come back, okay? So the parenthetical expression in this sentence would be, I suppose, okay? Well, remember, we got to put a comma before and a comma after. Now, if I was to take all that out of there and I scooted the sentence back together, it would say, your camera fell into the pool. Okay? Another one is, the test scores as might be expected were extremely high. Okay, what do you think the parenthetical expression is? Well, it's going to be as might be expected. Okay, and remember, where do we put those commas? We put them in front and behind the parenthetical expression. If I take all of that out with the commas, it should read, the test scores were extremely high. Now, if for some reason I made a mistake, okay, and maybe I put the comma too far back, and I said the parenthetical expression would be, might be expected. Well, when I take all that out, does it make sense if I said the test scores as were extremely high? That doesn't make sense, right? So I know I have the commas somewhere off, okay? So I switch back here, and then I say, well, the test scores were extremely high. That makes sense, okay? Now, an example of where a parenthetical expression would fall at maybe the beginning of a sentence would be, fortunately, fortunately, we were not able to go on vacation in June. Okay, so what do you think that parenthetical expression is? Because remember, you can live without the parenthetical expression. It makes sense without it. So what would that be? Well, I told you it's going to fall on the beginning. So the word fortunately would be our parenthetical expression. Now, since it falls at the beginning, clearly we're not going to be able to put a comma before it, okay, because that wouldn't make sense, but we can put a comma after the word fortunately. If I was to take this whole parenthetical expression out, would it make sense if I say, we were not able to go on vacation in June? Well, yeah, it does. It makes sense. Okay. How about one more parenthetical expression? How about Nova Scotia according to this brochure is a scenic place to visit. What do you think? Where is that parenthetical expression? Well, Nova Scotia, I can tell you, that's in Canada, okay? What makes it quite make sense if you could pull it out, it would still make sense without it? What's that parenthetical expression? Well, if you guessed, according to this brochure, that is the parenthetical expression. Now, put a comma before according to this brochure and a comma after. We pull it out and we could say Nova Scotia is a scenic place to visit. That makes sense. Okay. So what I'll do is I'm going to be sending out more worksheets for you to practice at this, okay? And I'm going to make another video, and it's going to have to do with direct address, and it's going to have to do with the positives. So I'll see you later. Good luck. Bye.